Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are the SMEs, they're the small and medium business enterprises, and I get it that you're going to want to do something for them in the lead up to an election. But what are you doing to the 1.3 million workers employed in SMEs when you talk about actually cutting back on commitments made on the minimum wage and sick pay? You see, I remember when your Minister for Finance sat there during the austerity years and says we are picking the low-hanging fruit, and he meant it. But it just strikes me that if you are bringing in this measure, that's exactly what you're attempting to do, is to pick the low-hanging fruit to impress your base. Now, it's important to say that there are obviously very serious problems with some of the small enterprises out there, and they are struggling, but not all of them are struggling. There are 1.3 million people employed in SMEs. Not all of them are that S or that M. You have to have at least 250 employees or below to be described as an SME. So there's a huge spectrum within that. And what my question to you is, if you're going to target labour measures that are progressive and that have been promised to some of the lowest paid and worst treated workers in the country, why are you not targeting those measures to those who need it, rather than giving a blank cheque to the entire SME sector, many of whose profits are going up? And that is true of hospitality and retail. Profits have gone up, the cost of living has not come down sufficiently, and you're telling workers, where you made a commitment that you would bring their standard of living up, you're now pulling back on it. And can you please justify that sort of policy in this day and age, in one of the richest countries in Europe, that is now going to be, as I say, picking the low-hanging fruit and attacking the people who are worst off in this country? Yes, give supports to those businesses, those small businesses in local towns and communities that are struggling, but does the support have to include penalising the worst off workers and those that are on a promise from this government that they will do better in terms of sick leave and a median wage that they're promised over the next 2 years? Can you please answer that and confirm for me if this is the Cabinet's plan?
I always find it slightly amusing when the government says something, it must be about the local and European election, but when the opposition does something, it's nothing at all to do with it. I'm sure you're hoping to get a few votes yourself in the election, and I wish you well. The government did have an important discussion and a series of proposals today, around 15 actions indeed, around small and medium enterprises, because Deputy Smith is correct. They are really feeling the pinch. And you'll know it in your constituency, I know it in mine. Small businesses, cafe owners, restaurateurs, hairdressers, others, butchers, the ones on the main street that we all know in towns and villages. They've seen a lot come at them in a short space of time, and they say to you this, they say, it looks very busy in here, doesn't it? It's hard to get a table, it's hard to get a seat. But I tell you, when you do the books at the end of the week or the end of the month, the margin is tight. And they've asked the government to listen, and we've committed to doing that. We've listened, and today we've acted. Tomorrow the package will be announced. But let me tell you what it will do, and let me tell you what it won't do. So what it will do is look at how initiatives that we've had in place, like the increased cost of business grants that have worked well for many businesses, can we give another blast of that into some small and medium businesses? Can we give another bit of assistance in terms of a direct cash injection? That's one of the things that it'll look at. Can we look at things like making sure that when the minimum wage is increased as it was, that there's a lower rate of employers' PRSI, so that the employer doesn't feel like they're being hit twice? Can we look at things like the commitment in the programme for government in terms of an SME test being applied? It's easy in here to come up with a great idea. Often we don't have to pay for it. It's the small and medium businesses that do, and we need to be factoring that in, because we don't want anyone to lose a job here, because that's the most important protection you can give any worker. Now, I'm extremely proud, Deputy Smith, of this government's record when it comes to workers, and this government's record when it comes to supporting hard-working people. You only have to look at the minimum wage. It's now €12.70. It increased by €1.40 per hour just 5 months ago. A very large single increase, an increase of 12%, when the inflation rate last year was around 5.3%. We are the government that introduced a sick pay scheme. There's no one talking about rolling back on anything. What we're talking about doing, though, is following the evidence, having the ESRI do a piece of research about what happens next. What has the impact been? How are SMEs coping with it? How is it working in practice? That sounds sensible. We're a government that's introduced parental leave. We're a government that's made progress in remote working. We're a government that's really reduced the cost of childcare at least twice. We're a government that reduces tax on low and middle income workers. And we're a government that established the low pay Pay Commission. Now, you know very well the process the Low Pay Commission goes through. It has workers' reps, it has business reps, it has an independent chair, it does its work over the summer, and then it generally reports to government. So I agree with you if this is the point you're making, that we shouldn't pit the needs of one against the needs of others. But we should be conscious in here, and we have to be, and if you're not hearing this on the hustings, you're on very different hustings to me, we should be listening to people who are saying, you come up with your bright ideas in here, but you're not considering the impact it's having on my cafe, my butchers, my small clothes shop. And that's the balance we're trying to get right. I believe with the range of packages we've gotten in place, details of which will be announced tomorrow, we have gotten that balance correct.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Smith.
Well, I probably am on the same type of hustings as you. Yeah, 8% of workers in this country are on the minimum wage, and they're the people who I meet. And the postponement of an increase for them is cruel, unnecessary, and instead of having a progressive rate of tackling the businesses and giving them different rates that they have to pay over, you're tackling workers. You're attacking workers' rights again. It's about almost a year ago when we brought a bill before the House to get rid of the discrimination against young workers in the minimum wage legislation. Your government said park it for a year and we'll come back to you. I'm dying to hear what you have to say the first week in June about that bill that you parked for a year. I wonder, have you even looked at it? Because it's very clear to me that this is about picking the low-hanging fruit. If you want to support the businesses that you meet on the hustings, and not all businesses are covered by this, by the way, many of the businesses that you're giving supports to, and SIPTU have proved this in their research and research from Maynooth College, many of the businesses that you're giving the extra support to are very profitable. The point is here that it's not targeted at those who need it the most in business terms. What it is targeted at is those who need the increase most in wage terms.
So that's either an unintentional or a deliberate misunderstanding of the government's increased cost of business scheme, which is targeted. I mean, I'm sure you've all gotten into your constituency office queries, why do I not qualify? Because I'm over a certain threshold. There's very clear thresholds in relation to this being targeted. You know that. And if there's any member of Dáil Éireann who doesn't believe we should pay out another additional sum of the increased cost of business grant to retail or hospitality, please let me know. Let your constituents know. Let the cafe owners know. But I would have thought there's a consensus that the increased cost of business grant is the very least we should be doing to try and help businesses at this hard time. And what we're trying to do in advance of the budget is see how we can be innovative within the resources that we have available. But I don't buy into this idea of pitting one group of people against the others. And I don't need to be... No, that's what you wish we were to do. That's what you would thrive on us doing. That's what you'd like to tell people we do. Just... Sorry. Every time I speak, it's something. Every time you speak, it's authoritative. And every time I speak, you just try to degrade it. The reality...
Deputy,
that's just because you know everything. Fair play to you. But I'll tell you this. We cut taxes, we cut childcare, we increase the minimum wage, we introduce statutory sick pay, we support remote working, we're building more homes, we have the backs of workers in this country. We don't need any lectures from you on it.